Hi, I want to discuss with you openness, intelligence, and creativity. Okay, there are factors such as intelligence or openness. Openness to experience has some correlation with intelligence, but the correlation is weak. Openness does define how open you are to new experience. Per definition, the definition of openness is openness to experience. Hence, there are factors such as how you see the world, how you experience the world, how you make decisions about your experience. And this is a weak definition of it because experience does not matter, such as the experience which city you live in, or which it might define the variety of experience you make, such as people with who are high in openness are more likely to take drugs or to take or have imagination. Having an imagination does mean that you can, it mostly means that it will rise when you have aphantasia, what is maybe 1 in 100 or 1 in 200 people. Intelligence, on the other hand, is another factor such as creativity that both correlate in their neuronal functionality. Intelligence is measured with IQ. IQ is a psychometric model of intelligence. It measures how well you behave in academia or entrepreneurship. For entrepreneurship or for success in general, you need some IQ, probably above 120 or 130. These are the necessary. This is the necessary IQ you need to have. For being a genius, you need IQ above 130, and for being a great entrepreneur, a really great entrepreneur such as me, you need an IQ above 140. This is my guess, based on what I've read. And there are other jobs where you need an high IQ, and other jobs where you don't need an high IQ, but the option pool for people with a low IQ is higher than the option pool for people with a high IQ. When you consider the factor that the cost variable is true to some extent in the domain IQ, people with an or with a normal IQ, I would say normal IQ. Normal IQ does mean 80 to 120. An IQ of having over 120 is where changes can happen for society and on an individual level. There are outliers such as people with an IQ measured with 80 or something, where the IQ test failed IQ is still a variable for measuring income and for measuring academic success. Academic success is not important for making contributions in the world or for having a good life. There are philosophical questions that need to be asked, and wisdom also doesn't correlate with IQ. And when we consider what is a good life, then we have to understand that being an academic or working in a scientific domain or working as a consultant, these are the jobs that are preferred by the majority of people. When we consider the the how to live a healthy life, then we also see a correlation with IQ. IQ does mean that you live an easier life, a less stressful life on the average or on the as a correlational factor. IQ does mean that you can earn more money. IQ does mean that you does earning more money make you a better human. There are statistical questions that need to be solved, and income does mean to some extent per, per country. There are per country IQs, and when we consider that, then we also have to understand that IQ entrepreneurs have an higher IQ, or that doctors have an higher IQ. You need to have an IQ above 120 to become a doctor, and programmers also have a high IQ. There are many jobs that need an high IQ. And when you don't have the necessary IQ, then a country can develop the infrastructure, or they can develop the infrastructure for also the human rights infrastructure, such as free speech or liberal values. When you don't have people with an IQ, you can develop a liberal society, and you necessarily have a society that is not functioning the way the Western world sees it. And we, as Quillette, we try to understand these things. How is the IQ? How does it work? How does creativity relate to IQ? And new findings. We have found out that creativity and intelligence are highly correlated, or that they are the same. The neural functioning, it's almost the same. Hence, when you are creative, you necessarily have an high IQ. There is no questioning about it, except that when you have ADHD, you necessarily you are more creative. What I have read is probably linked to what is scientifically known, or what is known is also causal for what is scientifically known of good science. And we try to discuss these things, and when we consider intelligence as a factor of what should be known and what is important for science, and then we we can ask the question whether the blank slate is important. Is the blank slate important? Look, there are things such as IQ that does matter for society. Such as I didn't know my IQ and or my intelligence. That was a huge problem for me. And knowing that I have a high IQ does mean that I'm not false with my capabilities. I can estimate my capabilities because of we have the scientific knowledge, and we let us increase the number of people who've known about it, or the public information that are necessary to understand how our society is functioning, such as which diet you should take, and entrepreneurship on the other hand does gives a deeper analysis or a deeper understanding of what is important to to make changes in society. That is the option pool for can be seen as an optional pool for what is important and what should we work on. Science enables the basic, it's like basic research. We don't know what is important, but we have to make the contributions to figure out what is important for society. Hence, we have to make the basic research, and it's a calculation of what is in what what pays off. And some research, the most research is it's basically noise and not worth the money. But some science is important, and as society, we have figured out that blank slate is an important question, and we we don't